Welcome to Grit, Real Stories of Recovery. My name is Paul, and I'll be your host. Please note that this podcast is uncensored and may contain material that is not suitable for all audiences. Today I'm here with Joe, Adam, and Kyle. Previously, our podcasts have focused on people in long-term recovery. Today, we're going to talk to men fresh in recovery. Good morning, gentlemen. How y'all doing?
Good.
Doing good.
Thank you all so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. You know, it's real easy for me to remember my homeless experience, my addiction, and what that was like. I lived on the street for 2 years. I was eating day-old bagels out of the dumpster behind the Einsteins. I was trying to stay warm. I was trying to hide from the cops, and basically just trying to stay alive. Really, I was trying to hide from everyone because I was embarrassed, ashamed, humiliated. And I guess what I'm looking for is what was it like out there? Y'all just came in within the past couple of days. Is it still as bad out there as I remember?
Yes, it is.
Tell me about that, Joe.
Maybe worse, just trying to survive from day to day, man, and wondering where your next meal gonna come from, where your next high gonna come from, and just, it's like its own world.
Yeah, I relate to that completely. Adam, what was it like for you?
Well, like Joe said, it's a daily struggle. For me, it was like you said, the embarrassment. I can remember running into family before during my homeless period and my addiction, and running the other way when I seen them family members walking down the 16th Street Mall here in Denver, literally turn and run because of the embarrassment I felt.
Yeah, I hear that. I did not want anybody to know. Kyle, what was it like for you?
It was a struggle. I'm an alcoholic, but when I drink, I really didn't care. Sleeping on concrete 15 days ago, and I was drunk, so it didn't matter. I was scared, very scared. I'm 52 years old, and I started drinking when I was 12. I was an alcoholic at 16. I've been through a few rehabs, and this is the last one.
I'm glad to hear that, man, and that kind of segues into my next question. Joe, tell me about the moment you knew you were ready to change, right? You just talked about how horrible it was out there for you. What was that moment where you said, you know what, I got to do something different?
About a week ago, man, I woke up. I had been on like a week binge, man. I woke up in the alley on 48th Street, bro.
What were you using?
On meth.
Okay.
That's my drug of choice. I woke up in the alley. I didn't know how long I had been asleep back there. And my oldest daughter is like everything to me, man. And she wasn't talking to me because she knew, you could tell, and that was just like my lowest point. And I was like, man, I can't do this. I gotta go get help. And somebody told me about Step Denver.
And so what was that feeling like?
I was just ashamed, like I let everybody down, and I really didn't want to live no more, like what I was living for, So someone had told me about this program, and I was like, I have nothing else to lose. Might as well try it. I done tried everything else. It's obvious I can't do it by myself.
Yeah, I remember I just felt exhausted. I was broken. I was afraid. And I just realized I couldn't live like this anymore. And I didn't know what I was going to do. There was a number of times I sat with a razor blade saying, I'm going to kill myself. And I just never had the balls to do it, and at least that's what I thought at the time. Now I know the universe or a higher power had a different plan for me, but it was that I can't do this anymore. Kyle, what was it like for you? What was that moment, and how did you feel?
Well, there had been occasions where I would go on a bender, and all I'd do is drink 2-3 pints of vodka for a week, 2 weeks, not eating. And I was sitting there in the park one morning and just realized that if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm gonna be dead. And so I got another pint, drank it, went to detox, and called stout, and had a couple more years of sobriety and broke down. One shot led to another, and then I just knew I had to do it one more time and made the decision to get it right this time.
And what was that like in that moment? Were you confused as to why you went back and did it again after you knew you had some time and you knew where it was going to go?
I thought I could have 2 drinks after 2 years of sobriety and be okay, and that was wrong.
Did you do any kind of recovery program, or were you just white knuckling it?
No, and that's one thing I've learned. The biggest thing is to stay in contact with your support and attend groups and stuff.
And so you didn't do that?
I did not.
Right, and you just got right back into life?
Yeah, and did good for a while, but eventually started drinking and lost everything. Sobered up, got everything back. Had my own place, new car, all that. Drank, lost everything.
Yeah.
Built myself back up and did it again.
That's the cycle of addiction, right?
Yes,
if
it
we're
is.
not doing some sort of program every day. Adam, what was it like for you? What were those feelings like? What was that moment where you said, shit, I cannot do this anymore?
Well, just over a week ago, I called my wife, who had been talking to me for about a month, which is probably the worst, as far as I'm concerned, it's ever been for me, to where my loved ones were avoiding me, wouldn't answer my calls. I remember just calling and nobody would answer, and feeling that those feelings of complete and utter despair. I never had that experience before where my own family wouldn't even answer my calls. So for me, that was probably the worst I've ever experienced. I've always had family that were willing to deal with me on some level. This is my wife, the mother of my child. I hadn't seen my son for a month. I called her a couple weeks ago, and I was supposed to see her that Monday. And I was just filthy, been out in the streets for a few months, not bathing, just completely embarrassed to go see her. So I got high that day and got sober to some effect and went over to her parents' house. She wasn't there, but I seen my in-laws, and they wouldn't let me see my son.
God, that had to have been hard.
And it was the hardest thing I've ever dealt with. But I suppose I dealt with that in the best possible way. I just walked away that day. I didn't have a meltdown or freak out or anything like I probably normally would have. Instead, I go out and I go into the parking lot and I see my mother-in-law, and I told her, hey, let my wife know I come by to see my son. And I had cleaned myself up. I had bathed, the first shower I had in like a month. She said, you want to see your son? And I said, yeah. So I seen my son, and I spent an hour with him, and I just felt like I couldn't do it no more. I couldn't live like that no more. By Wednesday that week, I was here. My mother-in-law had found Step Denver. I had heard about it about 10 years ago. I had heard about this program. And so I just became willing at that point, seeing all the efforts that they were putting in, trying to see me back to the person I know, what they know me as and what I know myself as. So Wednesday I came here, and I got a whole new renewed feeling of willingness and openness, and I know for the months previous to that, I just had so much embarrassment and overwhelming feelings of I'd done too much wrong. I couldn't get back to a point in my life that I wanted to live for. So I mean, it's been moment to moment sometimes for me. All I know is today that I'm willing. I think with that willing, that spirit of willingness that's alive inside of me today, I can go places with that.
So I understand that point at which you become willing to do something that, right, I wasn't willing to do before. I didn't have any hope. I didn't think this could happen. And that's what I hear you guys saying. And, when I got help, it took a minute for me to actually want that, right? I was offered help, and I didn't really know if I wanted it because I was afraid. I was afraid at what that meant I was going to need to do, and I had so much carnage that I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to rebuild. So it took a lot of courage and strength to walk into that program and say, yes, all right, I want help. because what you guys described is what I went through, and I had those feelings, but then I had to have this other feeling, right? The courage to say, yes, I'm going to do it. Adam, talk a little bit about the courage and the strength it took for you to make a call or show up here and say, yes, I want that help.
Well, like I said, a lot of it's been moment to moment. You know, I didn't even know I had that willingness until I was praying last night, and just thanking God for this opportunity, because I didn't think I was worth it a week ago. I really honestly wanted to die a week ago. I thought more about death than I did about any kind of willingness or recovery, for that matter. I didn't think recovery was a chance, not a chance, but I didn't think recovery was going to be a
possibility.
A possibility, yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I felt the same way.
I thought I had, like you said, I had too much carnage. I had done so much wrong and burned so many bridges. People that love me very much and still do, that, you know, I'm finding that still support me, but they need me to be, you know, somebody that's accepting of this gift of recovery, because it is a gift. There's many times I believe I should have been dead, and it seemed like the more experiences I had like that I was cheating death, so to speak. The further away from recovery I would get. Truly, I can't even tell you the last time I was willing. I know within the last year I've had some ups and downs, but never had I been really willing to accept help and be completely open.
Were you afraid, though, to accept that help, or what that meant you were going to have to do?
Afraid, but more so than that, I didn't think I was worth it.
Right.
I had feelings of despair and hopelessness that were overwhelming me to the point I couldn't even get to those feelings. So to be able to sort through the feelings I've been feeling over the last year at least, you know, so much so that I couldn't even experience willingness until recently, and didn't even know I was willing until, like I said, last night I was praying and thanking God that I was in the place I am.
Joe, what was it like for you? Were you afraid? What type of strength? What was it like when you were walking up to the door to come in and get help?
I think for me, more like it was more of a admitting that I would have a problem if I get help. You know what I'm saying? Because I was laying around there, I was doing an 8-ball of meth every 2 days, but in my mind, I didn't have a problem because I still had clothes, I still had a little money. So in my mind, I did not have a problem. So to get help with me, I was admitting to myself that I was an addict. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like after everything, losing everything. And the day I came, I still wasn't going to come, man. I was like, man, I'm not going to do this, man. What everybody going to think? What my family going to think? You know.
So what made you do it?
My daughter and my son, man. Like, I want to be there for them more. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want that. My daughter just started college. And I went for a college orientation, but I missed her graduation because I was high. You know, and that was one of the final, when she stopped talking to me, that was my final straw. Like, all right, Joe, you got to go get some help, man. Like, you got to do this. Not for yourself, you know, like for myself, but more like just to be in their life, man. Like, that's my biggest fear, is not to have my kids in my life, man. Like, that's the biggest fear I have. That's the only thing I'm scared of, you know. And I woke up that morning in that alley and I was like, man, I got to get help, bro. I got to. And before I could talk myself, I was supposed to be here at 2:30. I actually came down here like 12 o'clock because I knew if I would have stayed around, I was going to get high and I wasn't going to come. You know, so it was just like, I knew I was finna die, man. Like, you could tell, bro. I was 230 pounds 2 months ago. I'm 195 right now, man. So it was just time, man.
But you said you almost didn't
I
come
almost
in.
didn't come.
What was that battle going on in your mind?
It's hard to say, bro. It's like part of me want the help, but the other part was like, man, you don't need no help, man. You didn't got off this shit by yourself once before. You know, you don't need no help. But it really was hard, man.
So when you opened that door and when they opened the door for you and you walked in,
let's just give this a try. You done did everything else. I mean, what I gotta lose? You know, I done did it. I done tried everything else. I done tried to do it myself, and it's obviously you can't. Like I say, man, my biggest fear is my kids not talking to me, bro, and that's where it was, like, cause they done been through so much with me. I came in, once I'm in now, I'm at the point now where I'm literally scared to go outside the doors. Like, for real, I was telling my own cousin.
That was my experience too. I'm sorry, I
scared
don't
to
mean
go
to
out
be
the
laughing.
doors, man.
That's
Like,
exactly what I was thinking.
that's where I'm at with it right now. I was scared to come in at first, but now I'm literally scared to walk outside the doors, man, because I know I'm gonna see somebody I know,
Right.
Something like that, and I'm scared to relapse because I know if I relapse, man, I'm gonna die. It's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, man. I'm gonna die.
Yep. Kyle, it must have been interesting for you because you had a couple treatment experiences before, right? And so you had some clean time, and was there any part of you that worried, am I going to keep doing this forever? Is there any part of you right now? And that's, so the strength it took to show up and go, damn, I got to try this again. What was going through your mind?
First rehab I went to about 10 years ago out in Detroit. I didn't want to go. I wasn't ready to stop drinking. But my family, my wife at the time, said, it might be the best thing for you. So I went to this treatment out in Detroit for 3 months and caught a plane to South Carolina to head back to Denver. And I went to the bar at the airport. I wasn't ready to stop. The alcohol just got worse and worse before I went to the 2-year inpatient program. That was hard to walk through. 2 years. Can't go out, can't do anything. You work every day, all your money goes to them. Intense, therapeutic, psychological addiction treatment. I did learn a lot, and I knew the tools that I needed to use, but I ignored the flag when they come up. And again, like I said earlier, I thought I could drink 2 shots and it would be okay. So I'd drink 2, wait a week, drink 2 more, another week. And then I'm telling myself, I had 4 shots in 2 weeks. I'm good.
I'm good. The most famous 2 words in recovery.
Within 4 months, I'd lost everything. This has happened on a few occasions. Had my own place, golf clubs, car, few months, homeless, begging for money. Sober up, climb back up the ladder, get in the same situation. I think it's part of getting comfortable. And, change is good. And every time I got sober, I'd stay away from my support. And that's a horrible thing. Got to stay in contact. And I just, got back to that comfortable spot and thought I could handle 2 more. And again, 4 or 5 months later, back on the street. Horrible. When I come here, I was in the park drinking, homeless, sleeping on concrete. And my stepfather pulled up and said,
Did he know you were there?
Yeah. He pulled up. I was sitting there drinking. He said, I'll give you 3 days, detox, then maybe you should think about going back into rehab. It didn't take me but 2 seconds to realize what I needed to do. I set the beer down, I got in the car, I went to my mom's house, seized, I stopped drinking cold turkey. I was drinking 2 pints of vodka a day or more, not eating. Cold turkey stopped drinking, so I seized out, went to the hospital, gave me some medication for the seizures. I walked out of there and called different programs, stayed there 2 weeks, heard about this place, and made a conscious decision to get in here. This is it. This is it. I can't do it again. I'm fortunate enough to have my kids and my ex, that everybody supports me 100%, and I can't let myself down or them down.
But still, did you have some kind of fear that I'm going to try this again and it might not work, and you had to fight that fear to walk in the door?
Not this time, honestly, because I know what the end result's going to be.
So you're ready.
I'm ready. I can't do it again. I'm 52 years old. I've drank for 40 years. I'm done. And I have the tools. I just got to use them. And I think a big key to that is stay in contact with support and, reach out to people that are sober and be committed.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and I hope you stay connected. Joe, you talked about your biggest fear, right? I had all these fears when I went into treatment, while I was in treatment, while I was in sober living, right? I had tens of thousands of dollars of debt. I was a felon and was afraid I wasn't going to be able to get a job. I didn't know where I was going to live after sober living. My family was barely willing to talk to me. And now I'm clean, right? And I don't got the stuff to numb me or to distract me. And so now I'm looking at all these fears, all this stuff that, you know, we talked about, the carnage that we were going to have to clean up. And I was just terrified of that. And Joe, you talked about your children being your biggest fear, losing that relationship. What are some of the other things you're worried about?
Death, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie to nobody. The way I was living and how I was going, man, I would have been dead within the next month, man. And I just watched my mom bury my little brother. So that was always in the back of my mind too. Like, I'm more of a family person. Like, that's just me. I just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I care more about my family than I do about myself. That's just how I was raised and how, you know. So my fears is letting them down, you know, worrying about having my mom having to bury me, man, or just letting my kids down. Like, that's what my fears are.
Are you worried that maybe I can't rebuild the life that I had before?
No, that don't, because I know my abilities, and only thing holding me back is drugs. If I can stay sober, man, it's a whole different life for me, you know?
Right.
So that's the only thing, like, that's my fear, getting back on drugs, man. So I can't half-step it. All these years it's been like, oh, I could do it a little bit.
I hear you. Kyle, what sort of stuff are you looking at that you're concerned about overcoming once, you know, starting to rebuild a life in recovery?
You know, I just want to be there for my children. My father was a horrible alcoholic, died at my age, died at 52 actually. I can honestly say I'm not scared because I believe, and that keeps me going. I just want to be there for my children, and I'm doing this for me to do for them, and that's what's keeping me going right now.
Are you concerned about getting a job, getting a home again?
I'm not really scared because I've done it before. And I've had an old counselor say that I'm in a bad habit of getting comfortable and losing it because I know I can get it back.
One of my concerns was, am I going to start again?
That's always a concern. I mean, it all comes down to you. I mean, you're the one that makes that decision to pull into the liquor store. You're the one to make that, you know, that decision to pour that shit down your throat. And, you know, if you stay true, stay in contact, you shouldn't have to wonder. But it happens, you know. So, yeah, I guess I am wondering, you know, because I've done it a handful of times. I mean, here I am again. You know, you just have to stay true. You have to believe and do what you know you need to do. Adam knows what he needs to do. Joe knows what he needs to do. It's just, you just got to do it.
Are you going to do it? Right.
I am. This time I'm done. And, you know, I've had a lot of help, support from many people. And the one thing that I'm focused on this time around is when I do get out, to stay in contact with support. I think that's been my biggest problem in the past.
Adam, what are the things that you're looking at that worry you about getting a life worth living back?
Keeping it, for one. I know I'm tired of doing this back and forth lifestyle. I'm concerned about staying sober and what that. I've never really had a life of recovery. You know, it's been more so the opposite of that. So I fear the unknown.
Yeah,
That's
a big one,
I don't
right?
know what that life looks like for me, to be honest. And I guess that's been a crippling fear at times, just having the fear of the unknown, not knowing what my life will look like sober.
And sometimes that makes it harder to even address that, right? Because if it's the fear of unknown, I'm not even going to face that.
Right.
Have you had that experience?
Yeah, it's where I've just avoided the whole thing.
Right, avoided. Good word.
Yeah, I just avoided at all costs sometimes. I never really would lock into it because it's just a fear of the unknown and what that looks like. Is that a life that I really wanted? You know, did I want that for myself? Because I don't know what it looks like. So I just didn't know how to wrap my mind around it, so to speak.
Yeah. Do you think you can rebuild your relationship with your family?
I believe so. I already see monumental growth just in the short amount of time I've been in through these doors. Things that I couldn't have imagined just 2 weeks ago. You know, like Joe says, to imagine a life without my family is just unimaginable for me. It's crippling.
Each one of you have said, I can't imagine not having my family, but each one of us at some point has pushed our family away because we keep using.
Correct.
And so, to a certain degree, I can imagine it, right? I lived it. And Adam, what you just said was, I actually chose it because it was more comfortable than trying to figure out how to make it right.
Right.
That's just amazing that we would do that. So
We all did it.
right?
We all did.
It's something that I marvel at right now in sobriety. Even just the short amount of sobriety that I have, that I would have rather stayed in something that I was used to navigating, as opposed to something that it was healthy.
Right. It was easier, and it was the known versus the unknown. That's a really good point. So while I was in my treatment and sober living experience, I had all those fears and I was worried about this stuff. But at the same time, I had this sense of hope, right? What can things be like? What would I do if? What could I become if I cannot go back to smoking crack and drinking vodka? All right? Kyle, what might that look like for you? What are the things you hope that you can get back, or even new things? Because it sounds like you've kind of gone through this cycle and you've done the same things. Do you have hope for those things and maybe different things?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the sky's the limit. You get sober and there's nothing you can't do if you put your mind to it. Yeah, I have been through it. I've been on top and fall and been on top and fall. I know I can get back there. It's just staying true.
So what do you hope you can do? What's one of the things you wake up every day and you're like, yeah, that's what I'm shooting for?
I'm shooting to get my own place back, you know, spend more time with my kids. I got my daughter's graduating. She's the last one out of the 4 kids that I have to graduate. And I just want to be with them. I'm not real materialistic. Get me a nice place, a car, good job, and I just want to spend time with my kids. Be a dad that my dad wasn't. He was very abusive, and I just want to be the opposite of him. And I just want to see my kids grow. That's what I hope for. I know that if I relapse again, I'm a dead man. I just can't, you know, and yeah, I have a lot of hopes. It's so easy to lose. It's so hard to get back, but when you get to that point, you know, you just gotta be careful about getting content and getting bored, and you know, always keep reaching. Always set a goal and try to chase that. You know, it doesn't have to be huge, but set some type of small goal and keep going. It'll be good.
I hear you. Joe, what about you?
This might sound crazy, but my thing is I want to be a good example. Like, I got the negative part down. Like, I got that down pat. But I just want to be, when my little brother look at me and be like, look at my big brother, you know what I'm saying? Or when my kids look at me, they could be like, Dad, that's my daddy, you know? I just want to be a good example. I just want to be that person that, you know, make everybody proud instead of, well, Joseph locked up again, or well, Joseph back on the streets again. You know what I'm saying? I think I'm at the point in my life where I just want to be that example, man. Like, not just for my family, for other people who going through this. You know, I see people on the street all the time, bro, and I just be like, man, bro. You know, I just want to be somebody to look at me and be like, well, if he did it, I could do it too. You know, I'd have been the mess up my whole life, man. I'm 39. I'd have been the mess up my whole life. I have literally never been sober since I was 12 years old. whether it's marijuana, pills, or whatever. I want to be that person. A good example, man. Plain and simple.
So where would you like to see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, just happy, man. Living life, working, my own place. You know, maybe helping people with something like this here. You know, I just want to help people, bro. Like I've been to Bible college, all that. I just really want to help people. That's my thing.
I hear you. Right on. What about you?
Well, for me, being a father's always been really important to me. I know I kind of like to play off what Kyle said. Is I want to be what my father wasn't. I know fatherhood is something that I've always wanted to excel at.
Why do you think that is, Adam? What is it that makes you want that?
I know a lot of the wrong turns I took in life, I think could have been avoided had I had my father in my life. Mm-hmm. I know my first experiences in drugs, I was looking up to a man because of my father not being around. I can't say everything I learned from him was bad, but a good majority of the things that I learned from this man, barring because my father wasn't around, was negatives. I learned how to use drugs from this person. This was a time in my life where I was 13, 14, and I was looking for direction and
some sort of role model.
Yeah, some sort of role model. And I try to remind people of this. You know, there's good in everybody. You know, I did learn how to use drugs from the individual, but I learned good things too. But more so than anything, I learned negatives. And I learned how to use drugs and steal and do things that I'm not proud of today. I needed to have something more than that.
So what do you hope for now? What do you want to be different now? What do you think you can accomplish?
I think the sky's the limit, really. I think I can accomplish anything I really set my mind to. Can I say I always believe that about myself? No. But I hope to be a believer in those things too, someone that actually can bring those things to pass. I hope to be the husband and father that I've always dreamt I would be. My wife and my child and my children are the most important things in my life, my family. So I hope to accomplish, you know, and fulfill those things to the fullest, to be an example and a role model, like my brother Joe said, to be somebody that could be depended upon and relied upon for the good things. You know, not to have the people in my life think of me as somebody that let them down. Yeah. You know, I think of my father today, and he's somebody that just continually let me down. And I don't want to be that. So I hope to be somebody that can be depended upon, a role model, a good husband, a father, a provider, and an example.
Good for you.
That's all three of us.
Right? So, and I hear similar things from each of you. And in the last couple minutes here, Joe, what's the one thing you think you need to do to stay in recovery and rebuild your life?
I think for me, it's just to get out my own way. Because for so long, like when you try and you try, half the time it be us in our own way, bro. Like thoughts in my head. I say it's for my kids and all that, but right now, I just got to work on me. You know what I'm saying? Like tune the outside world out, just work on me so I could complete this. Just get out my own way, man.
Right.
And just work the steps.
There you go. Adam, what about you?
Man, that's a hard one for me, really, because I got so many things that have been hindrances in the past. So,
but what's the one
to quit
thing
thinking
you
I
need
know
to do in the future? Right? Our past, we did a bunch of shit. What do you need to do different in the future?
To quit thinking I know what I'm doing all the time. To quit telling myself I got this. I know what to do. I know how to do this. I got the information I need. I need to take instruction and follow a path that I have never actually walked.
Good for you. Good for you. Kyle?
You know, it's going to take the rest of our lives, all three of us sitting here, everybody in the programs. And if we take it day by day, know what you can and can't do, and stick to that plan, I think we could all achieve what we want. It sounds like all three of us have the same desire. As you were talking about earlier, we lost all the trust, all the respect, everything from our families, friends, everything. So actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, my experience was that I had to do something recovery oriented every single day of my life. And I had to look at it like I was taking medicine. I'm going to a 12-step meeting. I'm working with my sponsor. I got to volunteer something, right? Something like each of you have said, to get out of my head, get out of my own way, stay true to myself. I had to do that by showing up. Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to share your experience. I know sometimes it's scary or embarrassing, but for you all to be honest and transparent in this way, it means a lot to me, and hopefully somebody's going to hear this and it might save somebody's life. So thank you all very, very much.
Absolutely.
No problem.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
This podcast is being brought to you by Step Denver Men's Residential Addiction Recovery Program. Step Denver gives men with nowhere else to turn the opportunity to overcome the consequences of addiction through a program based on sobriety, work, accountability, and community. For more information, visit stepdenver.org.